Welcome to the New Mom Talk podcast, your go-to podcast for evidence-based answers to your burning questions about parenting. Join us as we dive into commonly Googled topics and hear from experts and real moms. Let's navigate parenthood together, one question at a time. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about pelvic pain. If you are in a car with littles or anyone that you maybe don't want to have listened to anything that we're going to say in regards to pelvic floor, that would be a good time to either pause and either put headphones on or wait until later on to listen to this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Danielle, our guest for today.
Hi, everyone. My name's Danielle Owens. I own my own private pelvic floor physical therapy practice. It's called Pelvitone Physical Therapy. I offer both in-home and in-clinic visits, which my clinic is located in Rancho Bernardo in San Diego. I started my business because I got bored with regular orthopedic physical therapy and how quick the turnover of patients was. And I had always had a desire to help pregnant moms just from learning a little bit about it in PT school. So I decided to take all of the extra courses that you have to take to get certified in pelvic floor physical therapy. And then I just really fell in love with it.
I love that. It's interesting that you have to take all of these other additional courses because I feel like we don't learn about pelvic floor physical therapy until after you've had a child, even though we should probably know about it before.
Well, interestingly enough, in PT school, granted, I graduated like 7 years ago, so it may have changed. We had one single lecture on it, and that was it, where it should be like a whole class.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens down there.
For sure.
So let's start with the basics. I will admit that I did not know what this was until after I had my son, and then until after I started working and connecting with people in the birth worker community. So what is a pelvic floor?
So the pelvic floor is basically a group of muscles that kind of acts like a sling or a hammock that hold up all of your pelvic organs. So that includes the bladder, the uterus, and the rectum. So basically the pelvic floor is responsible, to make it simple, for pee, poop, and sexual function. The pelvic floor, you need it to be strong to achieve orgasm during sex, to maintain continence of both feces and urination. So those are the three main functions of it.
So again, very important. So it's so interesting and fascinating that 7 years ago, you just had one class lecture about it, or just
right.
Oh, I hope it's changed. All right, now let's talk about pelvic pain. What is it?
So pelvic pain is any kind of pain that you feel in the lower abdomen or like actual genital or rectal region. So it could be pain with when you're trying to have a bowel movement, when you're trying to urinate, pain during sex. Painful periods are actually not normal, which a lot of people don't know. So that would count as pelvic pain as well. And then any pain that you're having with any type of activity like sports, walking, just sitting at your desk, doing anything, that would all count as pelvic pain.
Interesting how this can tie in with your menstrual cycle. Because again, being a female, you kind of tend to be like, oh, I just get really bad cramps or I just get really bad periods. And then all of that changes after you have a baby. Like it can get more intense or maybe not. I don't know. But I feel like
it could go either way.
Yeah. And I feel like the common trend, at least with the moms that I converse with, it usually gets a little bit more intense than before. So very interesting fact. Did not know that. If you are having the pelvic pain, what kind of symptoms are you going to have that are going to tell you that, hey, maybe you need to go see somebody that specializes in this?
So a little bit of a repeat of what I just said. If you're any bathroom function, so urinating, defecating, if any of those are painful, that's not normal. So you should definitely go seek help with that. It should be a very painless process. Pain with sex for females is also not normal. So that could be like your pelvic floor muscles being too tight or a trauma response or something. So that would be something that you should seek assistance with as well. And then, like I said, the painful periods, where from the time that we have our first menstruation, we're just made to believe that they can be really painful and that's just how it is and part of being a woman and that we should just deal with it, where really it's not. And that would be from a hormone imbalance. If you have a higher level of estrogen, sometimes you can have more painful periods.
So what would that still be the case? Like if you have, let's say you get lower back cramps or maybe more of the cramps that are in your abdominal area, that would be what would be considered the painful periods.
Yep. So the pelvic floor has a lot of effect on the lower abdominal muscles and the lower back. So if you have pain there, that kind of ties in with the whole pelvic pain thing as well.
And you had said with pooping, if it's painful. So very different from constipation where you're just struggling to go.
Yes, it all ties together. So constipation a lot of times means you could have a diet that just is lacking fiber or water, or it also could be that your pelvic floor muscles are too tight. So they're having a hard time to relax enough for you to have a bowel movement without pain. So then you have to strain and do all of those uncomfy things.
And this might be a repeat, but what can cause the pelvic pain? So if you are having, like, let's say the issues with bowel movement or pain with menstrual period, pain with any of that's associated with that, what could have been the cause to get you to this point?
Believe it or not, a main cause of pelvic pain in general is stress. If you are familiar with the fight or flight response, where your body kind of tenses up when you're scared, nervous, anything like that, have a lot of anxiety, a lot of people will notice that their upper traps, those muscles that tend to tighten up and get sore, like on between your shoulder and your neck, the pelvic floor muscles also do the same thing. So over time, if they're tightening up over and over again from fear, stress, anxiety, then they're going to become tight and it can cause pain over time. So that's the main thing. Then any kind of trauma, which kind of goes into the fight or flight response, that could, and that's trauma of any kind, physical, mental, emotional, that can cause pelvic pain. Maybe not right away, but later in life, sometimes it will occur. Childbirth, if you have a vaginal birth, a lot of times most women will have some sort of tear or even just micro tear of the muscles from having to stretch so much to get the baby out. That can cause pain with sex when you are cleared to return to sex because adhesions will form from the tear trying to heal. And then, like I said, tight muscles aren't always from stress. They could be if you're someone who over exercises, lifts a lot of weight and doesn't do any stretching, you could end up having tight muscles. Some things that you can't help are if you have interstitial cystitis, otherwise known as painful bladder syndrome or endometriosis, that causes chronic pelvic pain from the fibroids and the inflammation of the bladder. And then hormonal imbalances can cause painful periods, which would give you pelvic pain pretty much only the time of menstrual cycle, usually not affected otherwise.
Isn't it funny how I feel like stress is always like something that always affects your body? It doesn't really matter. It's like the stress can just cause all sorts of like dysfunction throughout.
For sure. It's super, super unhealthy.
Pregnant and feeling uncertain about postpartum, or had your baby 4 to 6 months ago and struggling to get through the days and nights? You're not alone. The lack of support for moms in the postpartum phase of life is a massive issue, and it's not your fault. You deserve to feel energized, be present, and feel calm and confident after your baby. I'm Natalie Welch, perinatal registered dietitian, aka the mom's nutritionist. In my postpartum prep for moms and renewed mama programs, we work one-on-one to get you showing up how you always envisioned through simple lifestyle and nutrition tweaks. Head to my website at nataliewelchrd.com to learn more and grab my free postpartum care plan now, and tune into the Birth of a Mama podcast for stories and expert guidance from and for real moms like you.
In so many different ways.
And then the time, we're so constrained and don't have the time to really be able to manage a lot of that stress. So it's like a crazy cycle.
Yeah, and we're expected to do so much, especially moms. You're expected to take care of your kids, and a lot of times you have to go back to work full time, and it's very hard to balance.
Yeah. Let's talk about the treatment. So pelvic pain, automatically, I think pelvic floor physical therapy, but what would be the treatments that somebody would have available to them that they could consider?
Yes, definitely pelvic floor physical therapy can teach you many types of different treatments. The main thing we would start with are relaxation techniques to help those muscles to relax and to help de-stress yourself. Deep breathing, meditation, anything like that would definitely help. Another thing are stretches. So you can actually stretch your pelvic floor. And a lot of times, if the pelvic floor is tight, your glutes, your adductors, which are those inner thigh muscles, your hip flexors, your low back, everything around there is tight too. So just stretching out that whole lower body will help to relieve the pain as well. There's a treatment that I actually just learned about somewhat recently. It's called vagus nerve stimulation. Your vagus nerve kind of runs behind the ears and elsewhere, or how they would stimulate it is they would put little electrode pads behind the ears, and that helps to downregulate your nervous system, which over time will relax you and help your pain response to not flare up to such a high level. One of the main treatments would just be manual therapy from a pelvic floor physical therapist. So that can include internal like trigger point release or myofascial release, basically like a massage that you would get on your traps, your neck, your low back, just internally, vaginally.
Could some of these be potentially covered by insurance, and could moms or anyone struggling through this reach out to those insurance companies to see if like pelvic floor therapy is covered?
Definitely. So pelvic floor therapy would just be listed under physical therapy in general. So as long as you have physical therapy coverage on your insurance plan, it would be covered. But the somewhat tricky thing still, just because there's not as many pelvic floor physical therapists as just regular orthopedic physical therapists, is you would just have to make sure that you find a clinic that takes your insurance that also has someone who specializes in pelvic floor therapy.
All of this is like, why are we so behind? What?
I know, it's so terrible. Like Europe is light years ahead of us in all of these things.
I know. I met a mom at a playground that was a pelvic floor PT, and she was telling us how, like, in France, they just automatically get 10 visits to a pelvic PT.
Yeah, lots of countries. I
Like,
think Canada as well.
how do we do that?
I know. One day, hopefully. I think that social media and podcasts and everything is helping at least spread awareness so that people realize that there's options, and then hopefully one day insurance companies will hop on board.
Yeah, because like I said, I didn't know anything about this until after I had my son, which is actually when I had started my podcast. That's when I learned about pelvic floor PT, which is so crazy. And like all of the benefits that you have while you're pregnant, how they can support you during pregnancies. We need to spread the news,
Yeah.
spread the wealth.
Definitely. One day.
So finally, my last question. Do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations for anyone that is going through this?
Yes. So this probably goes for just people in general, but try to decrease your stress levels, which I know is easier said than done. But as I've mentioned, stress really plays a big part in this. So if you're able to incorporate anything into your day that helps you to relax, whether it be meditating in the morning for 10 minutes, taking a yoga class before or after work, going for a walk, doing something you enjoy, and taking a deep breath and slowing down, then I think that would help. But also, if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, I would definitely recommend seeking out a pelvic floor physical therapist, because it's not something you have to live with, and it will just really improve your quality of life once you can get this under wraps.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing this. I feel like I have quite a few pelvic floor episodes, but there's still so many more topics that can be covered. And I'm always learning something new. Like I didn't know about pelvic pain. So this is not only like a lesson for listeners, but for me too, because yeah, always learning something new. And the more you know, the better you can also just share with other moms and help out.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about the awareness.
Thank you so much. And I will have all of your info linked. And also, Danielle is on our business resources page. So if anyone needs any support virtually, if you're not local to San Diego, that's also a good place to go see services that are available.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.